This is the CNC Router Tips Podcast, episode 53. Now, I often take it for granted that all people know how to do searches and what to put in there. But really, it is like anything else. It's a skill. It's a skill that you can get better at with more practice. This is the CNC Router Tips Podcast, a show which answers one question from you, the listener, about CNC router tables, CNC software, hardware, web hosting, and business. I'll help you get started in your CNC hobby or business and help you cut through the confusion.
Today's episode is sponsored by themakersguide.com. The Maker's Guide. Useful tools for makers.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the CNC Router Tips Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Griggs, and I am just so pleased that you could join me today to talk about your CNC machine and what you like to do with it. Whether you're doing this as a hobby or a business, this is the place to get some tips and tricks that will help you out and to talk about, our shared interest, the CNC router tables. Now, one thing that I am very happy about talking with you today is it's been a while since I've put out a podcast episode. In fact, the last one that I put out was with the New York Times best-selling author Chris Guillebeau. We talked about his book, The Side Hustle. And it's a very good book. The full title is Side Hustle from Idea to Income in 27 Days. That episode has been doing very well with downloads and people listening in on it. And I do appreciate you taking the time. If you've listened to it, if you haven't, you should go ahead and take the time because I think what Chris talked about was a fantastic topic on how to create an income without quitting the job that you already have. A lot of times people try and sell you on some kind of get-rich-quick scheme, and that's not what Chris is doing. He's saying, hey, there's things that you can do while you're doing other things that will generate some income so that you can go out and do other things with that extra income. Maybe it's paying off a car, or maybe it's being able to afford to live in a little bit better apartment. Whatever your reason why, I think that this book and the things that are in it may help you. So if you didn't get a chance to check out that episode, you might want to go back to cncroutertips.com, episode 52. So you would go to cncroutertips.com/52, the number 5 and 2. Now, there are several other reasons why I haven't been able to put out podcasts lately. And frankly, I've been swamped. This has been a busy summer. We've had my son, Benjamin, graduating from high school and, starting his career as a freshman in college right now, which is awesome. Great job, Ben. I'm glad to see you out there making it happen. Very proud of you, son. And then immediately following that, my eldest daughter, Danielle, married her husband, Michael Emeny. And welcome to the family, Michael. I'm very proud to have you. You're a great young man, and I'm very, very pleased with my daughter's decision. So, there was a lot that went into getting prepared for the wedding ceremonies and everything which happened over the Labor Day weekend. One of the things that my daughter Danielle asked me to do for her wedding, and she loves handmade things, and she's quite a crafter herself. She does a lot with scrapbooking and all sorts of other activities, and she wanted Dad to make her something handmade for her wedding, and so she asked me if I would make something that went along with her wedding theme. Now, her wedding theme was a carnival. And so she asked me to make a little circus wagon box that would hold the gift cards that people gave her for the wedding. So she wanted a little circus wagon, kind of like you would see in Dumbo or whatever, with a slot on the top where you could drop your gift cards in. And so I set about to do that for her because, she's my daughter. I'll do pretty much anything she asks. You know how that is. She's got me wrapped around her finger. But I got out the CNC router and got some Baltic birch ply and went into Vectric Aspire and started drawing up a circus wagon after I had looked around on the internet to find some pictures of some examples. And, we found one that she liked, and I began to try and make it. And I'm going to be putting out some videos and a couple of pictures in the show notes for this episode that show some of the pieces that we used and made for that project. I don't know if I'm going to do a full-blown instructional video on how I did it or whatever, but it was a fun project. And one of the things about circus wagons, this is CNC related now, about these little circus wagons is they often had very ornate carvings on them. And, it could get quite elaborate when you see these circus wagons coming down, the road. Rather than recreate the wheel, I used a nice feature that is in Vectric Aspire that allows me to take an existing 3D clip art and to modify it by cutting away pieces or joining other pieces together to create new pieces. And so what I did was I went into the clip art collection and I found some flourishes and that she liked that roughly fit the layout of this wagon. And then I began to take parts off of it and add them to other pieces so that we got a different clip art than what was there. And, the new pieces I then laid out into this Baltic birch plywood that I was using. And I really wish I had used the hardwood instead afterwards, but so be it. You use what you got. And, 3D carved all of these things out of the plywood, and they became the ornamentation that went on the side of the wagon. So, a little simple project ended up being, more than just a few days to do. But it was a good project, and the finished product looked kind of cool, and she was tickled pink. And I know that she liked it because she kept it. So that's a pretty high praise from my daughter. So Danielle, I love you. And, it was one of the hardest things I ever did, giving you away, but I knew it was to a good man. And Michael, welcome to the family. So immediately after I got done with that wedding, a few weeks after, I'm exaggerating, and the other happy episode in my life in the last little bit, I got to serve as the best man at a wedding for a longtime friend, Walt Bubb, and his new wife, Sandra. Now, Walt and I met through an act of kindness at a model airplane show back in, I guess it must have been 1989 or so. My wife, Sonia, and I were attending a model airplane meet, and it was a very hot day in Pennsylvania in that cornfield. And we had been walking around with our newborn, Danielle, as a matter of fact, that I just mentioned, in our arms, during this event and watching the model airplanes fly. And apparently we were out there quite a while because I hear somebody yell from the field, "Hey, come on over here and get that baby in out of the sun." And I look up and there's a couple of people sitting under one of those little pop-up tents. And so we looked over and they waved us over, and so we walked over into the shade, and that began the beginning of a beautiful friendship with Walt and his wife Sylvia. And we spent a lot of time with them enjoying our hobby of model airplanes and everything. And it is, in fact, Walt who gave me an interest in machining. Walt was a master machinist. Used to work at an electric boat. And for those of you who have never heard of Electric Boat, they made the nuclear submarines, and he was a production manager in that field. So he was a very talented machinist. And listening to Walt talk about machining over the years was something that I guess it kind of rubbed off because it made me interested in it. And later on, with Walt's help, I built my first CNC machine, which was a hot wire foam cutter. And together, we built those and started making model airplane kits. And, it became a long friendship with Walt and Sylvia traveling across country. They lived in Connecticut, and we lived here in upstate New York, to visit us and us to visit them. And, we started designing airplanes long distance over the phone and doing things like that. So it was a lot of fun. And sadly, Sylvia recently passed from cancer and left Walt alone in the world. And I was very concerned about him for a while. And then, fate stepped in, and he reconnected with Sandra, a girl that he had known from high school, and she and he hit it off again. And the next thing you know, they're getting engaged. And I was very, very happy for him because it gave him another spark in life after his moments of sadness. And so it was with great pleasure that I acted as the best man at this wedding. You couldn't have kept me away. They are just so cute together. I swear they're like two young lovebirds. They both suffered the tragedy of losing their spouse in death, and now they've found each other, and they're very much in love. And it's nice that you can have a reboot, a second start in life, and be happy. To help unite these two was very, very rewarding, because you could see they were both so happy when they got together, and that made me happy, of course. And I hope that they have a long and fruitful life together. At 83 years young, it's really nice to see Walt happy. So congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Walter Bubb. That's kind of what I've been up to, and kind of why I've been slow in getting these episodes out. But that's all past us now, and we're moving forward. Now, it's getting into the topic of this episode. It occurred to me that with all these weddings going on, that there was an opportunity here to think about our last episode, episode 52, CNC Router Tips, episode 52, the CNC Side Hustle with Chris Guillebeau. And I was very happy to have Chris on the show to talk about how to create a side income using skills that you already have to make money in a short period of time. Now, the entire title of his book is Side Hustle, From Idea to Income in 27 Days. Now, if you are interested in hearing a little bit more about Chris, check out episode 52. But I do have a copy of his brand new book, and I've looked through it, and I believe we're able to apply what he is talking about in the first couple of chapters of his book in regards to a project with the CNC that we could use to make money. Now, people are getting married all the time. And when people are doing things a lot, there is an opportunity there for making a product or performing a service. All you have to do is you have to figure out what it is that people are having problems with, or things that could be improved or made simpler, things like that. And then you can create something that will be used by that group of people. So the first thing to do is you come up with some ideas to do that, and you just sit down and brainstorm different ideas. Maybe you want to concentrate on the wedding market. Well, in this case, my daughter Danielle had asked me to make something special for her wedding. And I'm not saying that this is a viable product that you could do every day, but it just kind of illustrates the point. Danielle's wedding was carnival themed. And so she had all kinds of little things, because she wanted a party-like atmosphere at her wedding. Everybody happy and playing like kids. So she asked me for something special. She wanted me to make something with my machine, and I think kind of because she wanted something that Dad made, and also because it kind of fit her entire wedding theme. So she asked me to make a gift box where people would put their cards and gifts that they gave at the wedding. And she asked me to make it in the form of a carnival wagon or a circus wagon. And she wanted it not just a plain box or cage like a lion cage, but she wanted it decorated and ornamented up. And so I took on that challenge, and I went in and started looking online and found some pictures of different circus wagons and everything. And I opened up my copy of Aspire, Vectric Aspire, the software that I use. And I began to draw vectors around the circus wagon image I had to get a basic outline on the size of the circus wagon. And, as time progressed, I came up with a design, and I began to lay that out so that I could build a box. I mean, the wagon is just a rectangular box, so it's nothing really complicated. Just have to make sure that the parts fit. But circus wagons are extremely ornate. There's a lot of carved figurines on them and things like that, and I really didn't have enough time or energy to create them from scratch, although I am capable. So what I did was I went into the clip art section of VCarve Pro, and I pulled out a few flourishes that were included with the software that were the general shape of some of the carvings that were already on the circus wagon picture that I got from Google. And I used some features inside the software that allowed me to cut off areas of a 3D carving or clip art and combine them into new forms to form other clip art. And so it basically took one shape and manipulated it several different ways to come up with 3 or 4 different styles of 3D carvings. And I shrank them or expanded them to fit the area that they were going. It was fairly simple work to do once you know how to do it. But, it just really shows off the power and simplicity of Aspire. And, I was able to do that. And I'll have some pictures of the carvings and the completed circus wagon in the show notes of this episode at cncroutertips.com/53, the number 5 and 3. And you'll be able to see what that looked like. And when I get a moment, I'll probably put together a quick slideshow and throw that up on YouTube as well. on the bill-griggs channel. But the point was, I was able to take this idea and complete it and build up the circus wagon. Cut little pieces of wire coat hangers for the bars in each one of the sides of the wagon, and put all that stuff together. Turn little axles for the wheels and everything. And it made it kind of nice. A nice little project, not too complicated, easy to do. Now, if this had been a project for someone other than my daughter, it could be a very expensive and profitable product. And, that got me to thinking of other things that, brides use when they're having their wedding, like placeholders at the tables, or little pieces for the centerpieces, any number of things that are unique to the bride. And if you are capable and willing to make something like this, it could be the very good basis of a side hustle for you. So, you got to think about it. How will you get paid for your talents? How will you find the people to provide this service for? And all of these things are laid out in this book, Side Hustle, inside of his 27-day plan. And it's kind of cool because, you're not trying to really create anything new and earth-shaking. You're trying to find things, ideas that already exist, and just making them special or better or faster, so that you have something that is capable of generating a profit. Because, if you're doing this and you're losing money on it, it's the wrong thing to be doing. You need to, select the best idea that you have out there to go after it, and try and, find ways right from the start to create an offer that makes sense and will make you money. So this is just one of many examples of a possible project, or something that you could do with your router to generate some income. To keep the lights on and keep you in router bits. Another wedding item that you could do would be those monograms that everybody's doing, which has the couple's initials inside of a circle in a Vine font. In case anyone's ever asking, the font that they use for those monograms is called Vine, and you can find that online at dafont, DAFONT.com. I get asked that question a lot, and I figured I would answer it right up front for those who are looking into doing monograms. They're pretty popular right now, and they're all over the place. Making those monograms could be a side hustle for you. There are just so many different things that you could do. And, it just takes a quick examination of what the process is, what the project is, and, how much it's going to cost you to make and how much you can sell it for. If you've got all that information, you can structure your deal right away, so that it makes you money instead of losing money. And there's a really good section in the book. I think it is in day 5 of this. Each of these chapters is broken down in a day, so you can do one activity a day. And in day 5, you forecast your profit on the back of a napkin. And Chris literally goes through and shows you some examples. And in this case, he's showing you the example of somebody who decided to rent his car to people, like an Uber driver. Instead of doing the driving himself, he rents the car. And, how much it would cost him to lease the car, how much he could get in rental for the car per day, how many times per month he's renting the car, and what his expenses are. And based on all of that, he could figure out what the monthly income would be from renting that car. So you can apply the same thing to whatever your CNC project is, knowing what the income per day would be, what your expenses per day would be, and you can figure out what your profit would be based on those two. So really pretty simple stuff that anybody can do with just a pen and a napkin. And I really encourage you to go and check out this book. I realize this is the second podcast in a row that I've talked about this, but I'm very psyched about this book because it lays down in simple terms how a person who's been successful multiple times goes about his process. And whenever you can do that, you're able to emulate it. And, if you can emulate success, then you will be successful. So once again, the name of that book is Side Hustle: From Idea to Income in 27 Days by Chris Guillebeau. And there will be a link in the show notes to the book at cnc-routertips.com/53. So I just want to talk about some things that have been going on inside of our Facebook group. Now, as many of you know, we have a private Facebook group called the #CNC Router Tips group. If you're on Facebook, you can get there. There will be a link to our group in the show notes, and you can apply for a membership. Well, we've been watching this group grow since we got started. Now, it took me a little while to research exactly when I started this group because I didn't remember. I did it on a whim one day. I wasn't paying super attention to, the date or time, or there was nothing really special going on. I just knew that I wanted to have a group and see if there was anybody else out there who was into building CNC machines or using CNC machines. And so I started the group on April 8th of 2014. And that's about 6 months prior to my recollection of when we started the group, because I remember we were just getting started. But I also know that I didn't really start keeping track of the growth of the group right away, because it took a long time to go from one member to many members. In fact, I recall celebrating when we finally reached a point where we had 50 members in the group. We celebrated like it was, the biggest event in the world. But it took us until March 30th of 2015 to get to 100 members inside that group. So it took nearly a year to get from 0 to 100. And some of those early members were very instrumental in helping to grow this group, because after that, man, did this group take off. And I got to say, we went from between March 30th, 2015 until August 14th, the group grew from 100 members to 1,000 members. That was unbelievably fast. It was a very quick rate of growth. But things didn't slow down there. And, you look, we're at 1,000 members on August 14th of 2015. Well, we hit 2,000 members on January 3rd of 2016. And then from there, it continued to grow. last December, on December 23rd of 2016, we hit 5,000 members. So it's a little under a year ago, we hit 5,000 members. And as of today, the day that I'm recording this, which is October 30th, the day before Halloween, in 2017, the group currently has over 10,000 members. This weekend we hit the 10,000 member mark on the 28th of October. We welcomed John Robinson into the group, our 10,000th member. Well, as of today, Monday, we're at 10,013. So, just a couple days later. Now, I have never been a part of anything that has grown this fast or has meant more to me than this group. And it's been a really great honor and a pleasure to take part in this group and watch it grow and watch the people help each other to figure out their CNC problems. So if you're at all interested in Facebook and doing groups on Facebook, you might want to check out the hashtag CNC Router Tips group and check it out, because there's a lot of files on there. There's a lot of information on machines, and there's a lot of helpful people in that group, some really superb people in that group. And I just want to thank each and every one of them for being a part of the CNC Router Tips family. Thank you all. Let's talk to the new members of their community directly right now. There has been a lot of growth lately in this group, and so we've got a lot of new people who have come on board. And it's kind of interesting that often the first post that a new person puts into the group starts with, "What's the best post?" And, many people are new to this, to the CNC router experience. And so they start out with a question, what's the best this or that I should use? And I thought, just out of curiosity, I would search the group and I would read some of these what's the best questions to you. Just a few examples. So, for instance, one person asked, what's the best user-friendly Mach 3 automatic tool changer screen set available? Okay, that's one question. What's the best type of clay to use for large-scale rapid prototyping and mold making? I've never machined it before. What's the best stuff to use to seal a cutting board? What's the best bit to engrave stone or concrete? What's the best bit to use for 3D carving hardwoods like oak? So, as you can see, there are a lot of what's the best questions coming in. And one that always comes in is, what's the best CNC router for X number of dollars? That one appears millions of times, or at least thousands anyway, inside of the group. And for those members who've been around for a while, it can get kind of old answering the what's the best question over and over and over again. So I'm going to teach you new members something that's very easy that will help you to find the information you're looking for quickly and easily. Okay, because chances are a what's the best question may have already been asked. So inside of the Facebook group, there is a search bar. If you're on a desktop, it's on your left-hand side of your screen with the menus. And it just is a little magnifying glass and a box where you can type in your search query. If you type in the word, what's the best, you will get pages and pages of questions which lead to the answer to what's the best inside that group. And there are literally hundreds of what's the best questions that have been asked in the past. And generally, you'll find if you click on any one of those, it'll take you to the thread inside of the group where that question was answered. And there's usually quite a few comments because there are a lot of people commenting. So, for instance, if you were, let's take one of these. Somebody wanted to know about spoil board surfacing bits. He's almost done with his do-it-yourself CNC, so he has to level the spoil board. What do you use? What's the best cheap option? Because he doesn't want to spend $200 on an insert. Well, if you look at that question, there were 15 comments, 15 answers to that question. And so just as a service to some of you who may be wondering that, I'm going to read you a few of those answers very quickly and rapidly. One person answers magnate on Amazon. Okay, you can do an Amazon search. You might want to try these where the replacements are quite reasonable, and they sent him to Woodline for a carbide surfacing bit, which would be probably quite expensive. Another person sending him to Magnate. Another one says to go to Magnate. Another one says to go to Magnate and provides a link. So chances are, if you were to read this thread with its 15 responses, you might get the idea that the 1.5-inch Magnate bit is a fairly good value at under $25 to solve this very common problem. So I'm going to put a link to that bit in the show notes in case that's one of your issues that you're trying to solve, how to surface your spoil board, so that you don't have to ask that question. But if you did want to ask that question, feel free. Nobody's telling you not to do it. I just wanted to show you the power that is available through the search inside of our Facebook group. If you want a Han Solo file in Carbonite, well, that's on there too somewhere in several different places. Just do a search and you should be able to find it. Now, I often take it for granted that all people know how to do searches and what to put in there. But really, it is like anything else. It's a skill. It's a skill that you can get better at with more practice. And sometimes you have to think out of the box. Put in exactly what you would think to call something, or the phrase or term that you would use to describe it. Often that won't get you exactly what you're looking for, but by looking around and reading a little bit, you may find a related topic popping up with a name for something. I use this technique in Google all the time. When I'm trying to find something that I don't know the name of, but I know what type of function it serves. And I've been very successful over the years at really drilling down in the search engine to find things. And, I know it's bad. I used to work in a communication center with people, and I was a sergeant there. And when people had questions, I would always look up the answer through Google, which was a new search engine at the time. And I got so good at it that one of the persons there nicknamed me Sergeant Google. And so I wear that with pride. I'm okay. I got great search skills. So I want to pass that on to you because, my whole philosophy is for each one to teach one. So if I can teach you how to search and come up with better results, then I think I've done my job here. So use that, and I hope you have good luck with it. Now I want to take a moment to just share with you a couple of new projects that I've got in the works that I think you may find interesting. At least I hope you will. And we'll do that right after we hear a word from our sponsor.
Today's episode is sponsored by The Maker's Guide, creator of the Triple Edge Finder. Get the edge you need, save time and frustration on your CNC project, and make setup a snap. Save time and material. Set up your workpiece on your CNC router table faster than ever. Accurately set your Z-axis height first time, every time. Automatically locate the corner or edge of a workpiece. Reset your starting point in the middle of a program. Quality crafted right here in the USA on US-made CNC machines. Get the edge you need today. Go to www.themakersguide.com/edge. The Maker's Guide. Useful tools for makers.
Okay, we're back, and I think we should discuss a few of the projects that I'm contemplating getting underway. If you've been listening to the podcast for any length of time, you may know that I got my start in the CNC realm because I had a love for radio-controlled model aircraft, and I wanted a way to make them in an automated fashion. And so, that got me searching into the whole CNC idea, and what was a CNC machine, and how do they work, and how could I do that at my house with the budget that I had. And a lot of that information was difficult to find at the time. We're talking the late 90s, the early part of this century as well. And so over time, I got the information I needed, but I never got around to using the CNC router table to build a model aircraft of any kind. And that has bugged me. That's been bugging me for a long time. And, one of the reasons that I went through all the trouble of building this machine was to make a model airplane. So that's what I'm going to be working on over the course of the winter. Something that would be ultra cool and fly very well. And, I used to design aircraft like crazy. But, time and circumstances have slowed me down from doing that as much. So I'm going to try and get back to my roots a little bit and maybe build a plane for the first time in over a year and a half. So that's going to be interesting, and I hope that you will follow along as I go through the design process and then begin actually making it. Now, I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to make a conventional balsa aircraft, made out of balsa wood, or a foam aircraft, or what exactly just yet, but it's nice to to think about it and to actually plan something out. I know a lot of my friends have asked me why I'm not designing anymore, or why I'm not even flying as much anymore. Well, this is going to be my shot at getting something together before the spring, and so we shall see how this rolls out. Another thing that I'm very excited about is I just got information on a new CNC electronics package that combines several features, including motion control, all into one board along with software. And I'm kind of excited about it. In fact, I just ordered one, and I should have it here before the next episode is out, in which case I'm going to do an unboxing video and maybe talk about it in the podcast. And I'm planning to have the creator of that board come on and do an interview from a fairly well-known CNC company. And I think you'd be surprised at what they put together, because I know I was. So that's all the detail I will give you on that at the moment. It's kind of a teaser. So, pay attention to the next couple episodes, and hopefully, I'll be able to shed some light on this and tell you if it's really as good as I suspect it is. Now, the interesting part about coming across this CNC controller system is that I don't currently have a machine to put it on. All of my machines are already up and running. So I've got my eye on a few projects that I may use it on to retrofit another CNC machine, which would get me, the joy of building something again, because I really do enjoy the challenge of taking an idea and making it into a machine. And, it's really kind of cool. If you've never done it, I suggest you do it at some point in your life. There's nothing like building a machine right from the ground up, whether that's retrofitting something or whether that's, starting from scratch. But I'm really looking forward to this. And meanwhile, I've already begun work on a project that has several people have asked me for over the course of the years regarding CNC software. If you want to learn more about that, I will have details posted. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for those who want to find out more information about the CNC software that I'm using currently. I have a project in mind that I would like others to participate in with me as we do it. And if you're at all interested and you want to, take a chance and learn something new or learn something to do something easier and better, then hop on that list and let me know that you're interested, and I'll get you more details as soon as I have them. I think it's something that you'd be very happy with, and I'm looking for a small group of people to do it along with me. I will not give more details at this time, but if you want to check that out and maybe get in on something really cool, I think, look for that link in the show notes. And the show notes for this episode will be at cncroutertips.com/53, the number 5 and 3. And, just scroll down on that page and you'll see a link there, and just, pop in your name and email, and I'll get back to you personally with the details. All right. So lots of stuff. It's great to be back behind the microphone again, bringing you information about CNC router tips. We're going to get back into the regular routine of shows after this episode. I hope that you will join us, and I hope you found today's ramblings worthwhile to listen to. So again, please check out our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/CNC router tips, or check us out online at cnc-routertips.com. I often mention many different types of software during the episodes, and hardware and cutters, and it can get a little confusing. So what I did was I put together a page on my website, cnc-routertips.com/resources. And on that page, I list all sorts of resources there, from books to tools to software, all the things that I use that make my CNC experience better and easier. And I hope you'll check it out. So again, it's cnc-routertips.com/resources. Now, if you'd like to have your question featured on the air, here's how. Need help? Ask me about your CNC router question on my podcast, the CNC Router Tips Podcast. I'll be glad to help, or try and get you the help you need. I want this podcast to be a fun and personal experience for everyone, and helpful. So let's keep it real and ask sensible questions. Please use common sense and show courtesy to everyone. That way everybody wins. Here are some guidelines to ensure that your question is qualified to be featured on the show. Please keep your questions under 1 minute in length. If it goes a little over that, that's fine, but don't ramble. If you have a website and URL, you're allowed to share it, but only once during the recording. Spammy or disrespectful or deeply private questions will not be considered for the podcast. If you need to ask more than one question, just make each question a separate voicemail. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. I'm your host, Bill Griggs, and I really hope that you have a great day.